Hello, everyone. I'm Steven. I'm with Workzoom, and welcome to Simplifying HR and Payroll for Healthcare and Community Services Organizations. Before we get started and I introduce Crystal, there's a couple housekeeping items I'd like to take care of first. Feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation, however, you're muted. So you'll need to type those questions into the chat. We have some folks standing by that may be able to answer those questions for you. If not, we can always follow up with you after the webinar. Secondly, we're going to provide some links at the end of the presentation. They'll also be in the chat as well as on the screen. So if you want to just, copy paste, if you want to follow up with those things. So I am happy to introduce Crystal Murray with Silvera for Seniors out of Calgary, Alberta. And before we get started with some of the questions that I have for you, Crystal, tell us a little bit about Silvera.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me today. I'm a human resource generalist at Silvera for Seniors, and we are a nonprofit senior housing company. So we receive all of our funding from the City of Calgary, the Government of Alberta, and private donors. And we help subsidize seniors housing so that those low income seniors can have a clean, safe place to live. We have just over 2,000 seniors that currently live in our buildings. We have a little over, I would say just under 30 buildings. And we have 400 staff members that help support and take care of all of those seniors.
Great. Well, that's good to know. So let's take a step back to get started with this, and let's talk about life at Silvera, about a year and a half ago. And what was like your normal daily life in HR?
Okay, so we have about 10 staff members that work in our human resource department. That's our payroll, human resources, and then our learning and development team. And so a couple years ago, everything was quite manual. I came from a company that had an HRIS system, so I very much knew what we were missing when I came to work here. We had a payroll system. But that was it. And it didn't do much else when it came to HR. We also did not have anything that took care of our scheduling. We had SharePoint manual schedules and punch clocks and manual timesheets and things like that. So a lot of our work was quite manual. There's also not a lot of controls or permissions. Everyone just kind of had a free for all when it came to the data and the information, and nothing spoke to each other. So a lot of manual work and a lot of spreadsheets.
So, so how did that work in terms of keeping track of everything, accuracy of everything? I assume it was challenging, but tell me a little bit more about that.
Yes. You answered it. It was quite challenging because nothing spoke to each other. We had a lot of manual tracking of things in spreadsheets, and it was tough, and the accuracy was low. There wasn't a lot of trust in how things were done because we had no real ways to track a lot of our data and information.
Okay. And how was scheduling done? Was that done on a spreadsheet, or was it done on a back of a paper bag, or
Oh my gosh, I know. It was done in spreadsheets. We have SharePoint here, so we utilize that and the permission settings in there, so only managers could update and change the schedules. But each community would have its own schedule, and then we have an employee scheduler who would be in there along with the management team to update. But staff would have to log in to SharePoint. So it was a little bit tough because some of our staff didn't have they'd have to use a computer or print in the office to get the schedule because they couldn't get it on their phones, things like that. And then if the punch clocks weren't working, then it was spreadsheets typed and put under the punch clocks so staff could write their missed punch into there, and then managers would have to manually enter them in, and was manual work for payroll as well. So scheduling was a bit of a mess for sure.
So, so I assume then that with timekeeping, then, as you said, payroll would then have to turn around and enter the time totals into payroll for people to get paid. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, if the punch clock, if they were able to use the punch clock, that generally just flowed right into our pay system. But I would say maybe 10% to 15% of our staff would have issues and would have to uh, enter manually. And then yes, in our payroll team, it was extra steps. The staff would have to write it on the sheet. The manager would have to send the information to payroll, and then payroll would have to manually enter.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And did you ever kind of think about how much time was spent tracking all that stuff, you know? Or was
Yeah,
that just you didn't want to know?
I think in the moments, no, we didn't want to know. I think when the discussion came up of how we need to find a better solution, then we all had to sit down and calculate all of the different, not just payroll and time, but all of the different tasks we were doing in the manual work. We had to sit down and kind of calculate how much time we were spending on that, and if it was a good idea to move on to a new option or an HRAS. So eventually
Uh,
we had to see the cold hard numbers on that. But for a long time we just kind of like out of sight, out of mind situation for sure.
Sure, I understand. So when you did that and you sat down and did that that time analysis and so forth, there's obviously that's your pain, but what were the big pains that were going on, maybe from your director level and so forth, that they were hoping to, you know, get out of a new or an automated system?
So, I mean, I think a few of the things that they were hoping for was obviously a cost savings, right? Upper management wants that for sure. Less time on the manual day-to-day things and utilizing our staff in maybe some bigger projects, things like that. Reporting was also a big pain point. You can report in the payroll system, but all of our other aspects of HR were manual, so we really couldn't report on anything. Also, our current system we had reporting was very limited to only the payroll team. And so managers couldn't, any level of management couldn't run their own reports or get the data from the system. It had to be requested of the payroll team, which was also another big time waste. So reporting was a big one. I think they probably also were hoping that maybe we could eliminate some positions with the new automated system. That hasn't happened yet because we're still learning, obviously, and seeing where the system could take us, I guess, and maybe reallocate some of those resources. But those were some big ones for sure.
Well, I would agree with the last statement there. I've been doing this for about 30 years, and it's n- maybe there's in the back of the mind a thought to, eliminate positions, but it actually is the opportunity to repurpose those people into more effective positions instead of chasing paperwork. They're now actually doing what their job was started out or what was in the job description to be, and helping
Yes.
them, guide people, through the
Mhm.
HR process or the learning process or things of that nature. So it would,
Exactly.
did the challenges come up to anything around, payroll costs, being able to process payroll in a timely manner because of all the manual process, or was that just something we just doubled up our efforts in order to get it done in a timely manner?
So our payroll system did have some pretty big flaws. One of them was we actually had to have two separate payroll accounts, one for our hourly staff and one for our salaried. They couldn't be together. And so that caused obviously within our team, we had to have one staff member who processed hourly payroll and one person who processed salary because they couldn't be done together. And they also couldn't be done at the same time. So there was also a lot of delays there in ensuring that management would get their time approved, and it had to be separate. It also was quite a challenge because if we hired an hourly staff member, all of their information had to be manually entered by payroll. So like their birth date, their SIN number, everything based on the documentation that was sent in by the new hire. And if an hourly staff member got promoted to salaried, they had to be terminated here and then re-entered here. Hours and hours of work. So there was a lot of challenges in our past, not our current, our
Past life.
past payroll. Yes, yes, a lot of time, definitely.
So I'm curious now, because that's one aspect of it, but the other aspect, we touched on it briefly, is that whole scheduling, timekeeping aspect of it, and how scheduling was not integrated with timekeeping, but timekeeping had some integration with payroll, I think, is from what you've said.
Yeah.
But scheduling, and especially in your environment where there's skill sets and requirements, and then of course there's different shifts may require different pay rates and things like that. How was that kept up with in an efficient manner?
Um, it it was kept up with. Obviously, everybody got paid, but there were times that our payroll team would have to work overtime or work extra to get it done in time because it was all very manual. It was, people would clock in and out, but if I was a dining attendant, but I covered a cook shift, I should be getting a cook shift differential. And it was our payroll team had to manually go through the shifts and the schedules to look and see where people were and then make the manual entry in the timesheet to make sure that they were paid accordingly. Some managers were really good and would send emails being like, oh, this person covered this shift. Can you make sure they're paid accordingly? Right? Otherwise, we still had to verify and check the information. The system also couldn't really tell the difference between, like our staff are paid on a wage grid. So once you work a certain amount of hours, you get promoted to the next step in your pay, but it's based on the hours you worked in your role. If you are cross-trained and can work in multiple roles, the system couldn't tell us the difference between the roles and would just lump all the hours together. So you would get a step increase maybe you really shouldn't have. So it was very, very manual to track and ensure that people were paid accordingly, but also their hours were distributed properly.
Sure. And then time for managers away from managing by sending out multiple emails because of these
Mhm.
hour changes or reallocations and things like that.
Yes,
Sure
definitely.
enough. All right. And so you got this challenge going on, big challenge, in disparate systems, not talking to each other. And so the decision was made after all this time collection or time studies were done. Let's go find something to fix this, right?
Mm.
And so how did that process go? What was the whole mechanism behind, research and so forth? How did that happen?
Yeah, so this actually happened twice. When I first started with Silvera, um, our manager of HR was trying to get a new system put in place, and financially we couldn't do it. Um, like I said earlier, our funding comes. We are a nonprofit, so we manage buildings for the government as well. So we don't actually make money from those residents because and so the government pays the additional part of their rent and so we have to have the funding from the government in order to pay for additional services and HRIS systems. So actually it was turned down. And so they moved on with life, and we suffered through another couple of years of manual work. But eventually the government funding did come through to help us to find something that would work for us. So once we compiled all our numbers, all of our would love to haves and what we just must have in a system, things like that. This wasn't just us as HR; it was obviously our IT department, and the company as a whole, our finance department, things like that. We came together with our list, and then it became more on the IT side. A search of, okay, here, what are some companies that kind of check a lot of these boxes and can provide us with, scheduling and HR and payroll and some potential future modules as well. And so then I say I wasn't part of this process, but our IT team was part of setting up different demos with different companies, Workzoom being one of those organizations that we had demos with. And then we had all of the people at the table that would be involved in using the system to take notes and see, like, does this work for us? And some of those systems didn't. Like for me, like it was like, no, I need it to have this, so this isn't going to work. And some of those systems were very payroll based. So of course our payroll team were like, pick this one. But it didn't do anything to support scheduling or HR. Like we needed the whole package. So we went through many demos and many levels of demos with the different companies, where we then eventually narrowed it down and made our selection.
Oh, okay. So when you did that, did you put together like a checklist for, and then IT kind of consolidated that, or how did that work?
Yeah,
and
spreadsheet.
and
That's all we lived in was spreadsheet.
and and, and was it all weighted equally? Or did it's like, okay, HR absolutely needs this.
Yeah.
So okay. All right.
Yeah, I think HR, I mean, obviously it's an HRIS system, so we need to have those basic elements of HR. I think a big part for us too, a big checklist item was our staff needed to understand and not find the system complicated. The majority of our staff in communities that serve our residents, English is their second language. And technology is not great with a lot of our staff. And so we needed something that was extremely user friendly, and that the staff would use and not, just, like an example is email. A lot of our staff do not use their Outlook email. So we have to email them to their personal email so that they will respond to us. And so for them to just stop using email, we didn't want that to be how our system was, is that they just stopped using it and relied on somebody else to give them their schedule, or right. So that was probably one of our, of course, to check off our HR boxes and our payroll boxes, but the next top priority was to make sure it was a system that was very user friendly.
Oh, okay, great. So you went through this research, you did multiple demos with multiple vendors, and then you were able to come down to one, Workzoom. So just give us a little bit about how that worked, in the onboarding process.
Sorry, do you mean like the
Like
last?
working with the team, like
Oh,
your team and Workzoom's team working together, to bring it to life at Silvera.
yeah. Okay. Thank you for clarifying. No, of course it was great. We had lots of good meetings, make sure that we understood where to start, which modules to start with. I've been with a company that has implemented an HRIS in the past, but I was just a small part of the implementation. I wasn't as involved as I was with this one. So Workzoom was really great at kind of laying out and giving us a clear picture of where to start and what was next, and what to give ahead of time and what to prepare. And so that was really great. Of course, the team, I know she's in the call, Tammy. Shout out to Tammy. She was amazing, and still is. just to help support and ask our hundreds of questions to make sure that we had everything we needed, and felt supported through that process.
Okay. So it's like a logical progression of do A, then B, then C. And
Yes,
along the
exactly.
way, you got to know the product and she gave you some homework, I think, right?
Yeah, yes. Yes. And I think knowing exactly, like you would think, okay, I do this, then this, then this, but sometimes there was like, okay, I'm going to ask you for this because this will take a few weeks. So then you can also do this at the same time. And she was working with not just myself, but our payroll team. And then she would know when to start working with our recruitment. And just, it was very well planned out, definitely.
Okay. All right. Well, very cool. Very cool. So, how are things now?
Well, now we have our scheduling, recruitment, HR, and payroll modules. We're actually in the process of planning in September to start our learning and development module, which is very exciting. Where it comes to our actual work, obviously, we're still learning, right? We're still working through and getting all the managers, like we've done lots of training with our leaders, and we're constantly doing refreshers and update training just to keep everybody fresh. But some of our big wins, obviously, when I talked earlier about payroll having to manually enter in when a new hire comes on board, and now the new hire does all that work for us. Yay. Which is great. They put all that info in. And if they make a mistake, it's their mistake. It isn't something that we did on our end. But it also just it ties into the whole onboarding process, which of course flows into recruitment. Scheduling has been a huge win because staff can pull the schedules up on their calendar. They can, or on their phone, they can clock in and out from their phones. We have, multiple ways for them. Like I said, our staff is very diverse, and we even have staff members that don't have a cell phone because they share with their husband, or and so we have multiple ways for them to clock in and out, which has really been great. And the employee self-serve. Love the employee self-serve, because people used to have to they had to go to their leader to fill out a form to change their address. And then we would have to manually do it for them. And now they can just go in the system and update it themselves. So just the employee service and input themselves, they love it.
Mhm.
But it also took hours of work off of our plates, which has been a huge win. The reporting has been great. I actually have been doing some update meetings with our managers this week and last week with our payroll team, and have provided them with a bunch of new reports that they can run. And they love that they can run them on their own at any time, which is fantastic. Um, Gosh, I don't know what else. I probably made a bunch of notes, but I've lost them in my pages already. But yes, like the schedulings are no longer in calendar form. They're updated in real time, which is amazing, and accurate for our staff to view whenever they need. Our employee scheduler, who takes care of a lot of our last minute shift coverage and things like that, he used to use 10 different spreadsheets to track, and now it can all be done in Workzoom. So it's a lot easier for him. And yeah, the hours saved with the new system and everything speaking to each other is just fantastic for sure.
Let me ask you, since you're on the front line there, what kind of feedback have you gotten from managers and from your frontline staff in regards to moving into Workzoom?
I think at the beginning it was a little tough. We have a lot of staff that were not open to the change. Um, Even within our HR team, there was a few people that were not ready to do it. They liked the manual entry and the control. Um, but I think, over time, we have so much buy-in, and even when new staff start, the current staff are eager to train them and show them how easy it is to use. Um, Managers are really liking the manager dashboard and being able to see all their employee information all in the same place, but then also approve a TOR and have the info right there instead of having to open an Excel spreadsheet and check the schedule and see who else is off, and the visibility into their entire team and seeing when they have time off, and then knowing they can approve another time off request because they can see, that have that visibility into their whole team. There's been a lot of great feedback on just how easy the system is, and how everything is just available at their fingertips instead of having to open up multiple windows of information and hoping it's correct, right?
Yeah, very nice. So as you're coming out of that, do you have some recommendations or thoughts or tips that you might want to give, other folks that might be listening in as you're making the, as you've experienced this, and now you're a pro, right? So what are the some of the things that you would, that you were thinking about that came true, or what are maybe some of the concerns that you had that didn't come true, in this
Yeah.
process?
So two things that I did jot down. The first one, um, ask questions of what other companies are doing. Uh, because a lot of these modules were new to us and not things that we'd had before because we did everything manually. Um, some of an example is our recruitment module. We built that quite early on, and then when we went live, we found that it didn't work the way we were hoping. That not the system, but just how we built it, and it didn't function, flow, or function the way we liked it to, and we had to work with Workzoom to kind of rebuild it, so that it would work better for us. Not anything that Workzoom did. I think we were pretty green in that area and thought, oh, let's build it the same way we've been doing it manually. So a suggestion I would have is just to kind of like pick the brain of the people that are helping you in Workzoom, of what other companies are doing, or of what might work a little better, because we had to do a little rework there.
Mhm.
The other suggestion is, we're a pretty small, lean team. And we, at the time when we launched and were building, we kind of just involved the people that were just, it was me. I attended every meeting, but and learned the system. I'm going to get a new name tag that instead of HR generalist, it'll say Workzoom super user. But I would suggest that you branch out a bit more and have more users, more feedback when you're building. Because what happened is we were a small team, and now now I'm the only super user, and so sharing my knowledge, I need to share my knowledge with more people on my team. So if I was away, I'd have more support. That's probably the only advice I'd give there, is just to have more, involve more people in the building, and more people in like the testing, so that you can get more feedback, and have more people with knowledge of the system.
Oh,
Yeah.
very nice. Very helpful. Now, I'm curious, did you find the way you rolled out the various modules, would you have changed anything on how you did that? Would you have gone with something else first, or maybe not? Or what do you what do you think about that?
I mean, we rolled out at the beginning of pay period one. So the downside with that is it was December 22nd, so we all had to work over Christmas. Maybe that was but we wanted to align with the pay period so that we didn't have to have two T4s, things like that. Um, the way that we rolled things out, I think, was great. We wanted to have the HR module and the payroll, and the scheduling all in one. We did training about a month before with all of our staff, so that because like I said, uh, we are a workforce where it's hard to get the staff together because they are, serving and cleaning up after our residents. So I didn't want to have multiple training sessions on different modules. So we rolled them all out at the same time so that everybody could see everything, and have it all at once. And then it wasn't confusing to have to to do multiple sessions. We have an employee conference every year, and that's in May. So the May previous to that, we actually did a demo for all of the staff so that they could see what was coming and expect it. But no, I think the way that we rolled it out was perfect. I wouldn't have added or taken anything away because it had the best impact for our staff.
Okay. Okay. And you said you trained your staff. Did you go to each location, or did you end up doing something like a webinar? How did that work?
No, we did it all in person and made it mandatory. um,
Oh, very nice.
yeah, I had 17 training sessions that I did. And so first I started with the leaders because I wanted the leaders to then be able to support their staff through their training. And so we had, I think it was 6 leadership sessions that were about 4 hours in total. And we went through all the different modules. We created a user guide for each of the managers with screenshots and step-by-step instructions. And then we gave them all each a noise maker. So we encouraged them when there was something cool or exciting that Workzoom was bringing to the table to blow their noise maker. So that the group could see where people were excited about the new changes. So we did that. And then with the community staff, we went out to each community and they invited all of their night staff, their weekend staff, everybody signed up for a specific date. And then there were some sessions where we had over 100 people and we gave each one a user guide. We made a separate guide for the employees as well. And we did, I think the training was about an hour so that we could then allow for any questions and things like that. And yeah, I think out of our 407 employees, there were 2 people that didn't get the training because they were away. And then we just caught them when they got back. So that went really well.
I like that noisemaker thing. I
Yeah,
think that is really cool.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
fun.
All right. Well, we're going to take a pause here. I'm going to come back to you in a second. We're just going to take a brief walkthrough of Workzoom and show the folks that are watching just a little bit more about how Workzoom is a purpose-built single system, all in one, so that they can see the benefits that you're reaping, from Workzoom. And then we're going to circle back with you for a couple other. So I'm going to bring you into Workzoom, and what we're going to see here is we're going to take one person, and her name is Violet, and Violet holds many different roles in the organization, and the whole idea is to give you an experience in Workzoom so that you can see, based on who Violet is at the time, what she can see and do. And this is really important to remember because at this screen, this is Violet's home page as a person. And what this does is bring everything together for Violet in one place. Okay, so the idea is give each person what they need to do their job and move forward. And I'll show you a couple different things here because we have these different tiles throughout the product, and you'll see how this all looks and fits together just real nicely. But you'll see that she has tasks been assigned to her. Tasks have been things that are part of a workflow. So as a person, she has courseware to take. She has performance reviews to do. She has a timesheet that she needs to complete because Violet is an hourly person, but she doesn't use a clock. She just enters her time in a timesheet. We've got a lot of options there. This is just one example. She also sees her time off, balances, and so forth. Now, down below, she has got what are called can do's. These are things that Violet will do as she needs to. She knows when she wants to take time off, so she would hit the submit time off request. She knows if she wants to look at her pay stubs or get her T4 or whatever tax documents are there. And these things are so she doesn't have to search through a menu. It just makes it easy for her to find out where it is, and boom, and then she goes. But as you scroll down a little bit, you can also see she's got her schedule. She's got her pay, benefits, and then of course, if she's taking part in any learning, performance, career development, those would all be displayed as well. And then we also have resources in a company intranet that HR can use to push out information as well. So this is from a person perspective. Now, Violet needs to change roles because she's also a manager in this organization. And when she goes to her manager role, she doesn't have to log out. She just switches over to her management role. She has a new list of to-dos because these are manager to-dos based on who she is in the organization. So she has things like setting up a schedule, reviewing daily exceptions, clocking in early, clocking in late. How do you want to handle that? Okay. You'll also notice that there are multiple colored icons depending on how urgent Violet needs to take care of these issues because they are time bound. She sees her team. She also has a list of can do's that she's able to do on the fly as she needs, rather than searching through a menu just like the person viewpoint has. Okay. And then when she moves into her administrative role, now we have Violet turned on as a super administrator. So, she sees things like Crystal sees, which is the whole organization across all the different functions within Workzoom. She also has tasks related to her administrative role. Okay, and then she also has her can do's, but she sees big picture things, what's going on in the organization across the various functions. Okay, because everything is tied together, there is no need for rekeying information because, you know, once the schedule is set, people clock in and clock out, timesheets are approved, they're immediately available for payroll. And of course, I need to take a step back because as you bring somebody on board, the Workzoom will know if they're hourly or salary. If they're hourly, what type of timesheet they get, what type of time off they get, begin to calculate that from day one. All that stuff is done for them. So that's a little bit about what Workzoom is. Made it real brief because everybody has got their own set of challenges, and to be, to try to do a demo for everybody would be a bit challenging. So I'm going to stop that screen right there for just a second. And what I am going to do is, first of all, Crystal, I'm going to bring you back in here. And I got one more question. And that is, um, any other things that you can think of that might be helpful for somebody that would be taking a look at at an automated people management system?
Um, I mean, I think, an important part is to just make sure you do lots of research. Make sure that there's lots of systems out there. Just make sure that you find one that checks all the boxes, right? I think a big part for me when I raised my hand and voted for Workzoom was, also like, did I feel valued or did I feel that I was going to get the support I needed from the company that we chose? Um, I want to know that if I have questions, I'm not just a number or a ticket. I wanted to know that I was going to get the help that I needed, and for as long as I needed, not just, during the implementation. So for me, it was a big deciding factor that I felt that I was going to get service and care during the process and after. So just make sure that you are comfortable and feel valued, and that is one of the boxes. But that it don't just settle for a system that's not going to give you what you need, because obviously you're picking something that's going to be with your company and for other staff for many years. So make sure it's going to do everything that you need.
Well, thank you. Thank you for selecting Workzoom and thank you for participating today. We really appreciate it. And for those of you that are watching or listening in or listening to the recording, got a couple suggestions for you. If you are where Silvera was a couple years ago, you might want to go to workzoom.com. There's a lot of information out there, including Silvera for Seniors case study, along with a few others to help you kind of formulate some ideas about where you are, where these other organizations were, and how they moved forward with WorkZoom. Okay. There's also ways to get pricing information because we are very open about what our pricing is, how it's built, and can certainly, there's even a little calculator there for you to use. If you're a little bit further on and want to take a look at WorkZoom, but you're not ready to engage with us, you can go out to YouTube. At WorkZoom has a lot of videos out there that you can look at all around different aspects of WorkZoom as well. Okay. However, if you want to take that big step and engage with us and talk about your challenges and how we might be able to help you, if you go to workzoom.com and scroll down to the very bottom of that home page, there's a way to book or schedule a meeting with us. Maybe it's 15 minutes, 30 minutes. If you want to see a demo, it's an hour. And when you get a demo, you can even get in there and do the clicking yourself. If you want to participate in the demo and not have us drive it, you can do that as well. So, would like to thank everyone for joining us today. I'm going to leave this up on the screen just for a couple more minutes in case somebody wants to copy that down. Otherwise, I think we're going to drop it into the chat, but both of those URLs so that you can go out and get that information on your own. Thanks again, Crystal. Much appreciated. Enjoy your long weekend this weekend.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and you as well.